Thanks, Emmy. I would like to call to order today's Thursday, October 8th meeting of the Missoula Board of County Commissioners. To begin with, we would like to provide a land acknowledgement, and this is to say Missoula County acknowledges that this event takes place in the Aboriginal territories of the Salish and Kalispel people. If you all would like to join me in standing and joining with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. Okay, thank you. Okay. Is your mic on, Juanita?
Thank you. No, it wasn't.
Okay.
Now it is.
Okay. All right. Next order of business. So I pull up the agenda. Any public announcements that we need to bring to everyone's attention? Okay, seeing none. Is there any public comment on items not on today's agenda? Seeing none. Our current claims list, this dates from September 15th to September 29th, 2020, is $3,218,128.56. We have two public hearings today. We'll begin with the first one, which I will open. This is a public hearing on annexation petitions related to the Missoula Rural Fire District. And we will begin with a staff report from Lisa Frost.
Hi there, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. All right, I'm Lisa Frost with the Clerk and Recorder's Office. 13 petitions have been received by the Clerk and Recorder's Office to annex parcels of land located in Missoula County into the Missoula Rural Fire District. The petitions have been checked and verified. They contain the signatures of 40% or more of the owners of the real property within the proposed areas to be annexed, and of the owners of property representing 40% or more of the taxable value of the property within the proposed areas to be annexed, thereby meeting the requirements of 733-2125 of the MCA for annexation of adjacent territory. And here goes the whole list. So the areas to be annexed are described as follows. Tract E1 of COS 1551, located in section 34, township 12, range 21, located at 12494 Arena Drive in Lolo, 59847. Tract A and B of COS 1521, section 34, 12, 21, located in at 1773451. Oh, sorry, that's a parcel. Located at 12568 Arena Drive in Lolo, 59847. Tract 5C of COS 1547 in section 3, township 12, range 19, located at 5400 Arnica Road in Missoula, 59803. Tract 1 of COS 6610, located in section 27, township 12, range 22, located at 25540 Highway 12 West in Lolo, 59847. Let's see, and then we've got tract 12 in section 10, township 12, range 19, located at 2652 Larch Camp Road in Missoula, 59803. Avery Acres, lot 2, at 3489 Trails End Road in Missoula, 59803. Bitterroot Meadows, lot 13, located at 13355 Wild Rose Court, Lolo, 59847. The south half of the southwest of the southeast quarter of section 1, township 12, range 18, less the right-of-way and river, located at 13890 Highway 10 East in Clinton, 59825. Bitterroot Meadows Edition, Lot 20, located at 13345 Green Tree Court in Lolo, 59847. And then let's see, tract 1B1 of COS 6046, located in the south, or the section 12, township 12 of range 18, sorry. And that one's located at 13625 Crystal Creek Road in Clinton, 59825. Tract 4A of COS 3287 in section 10, township 14, range 19, located at 12029 Bench Road in Missoula, 59808. And finally, tract A of COS 950, section 10, township 12, range 19, located at 2500 Larch Camp Road, Missoula, at 59803. That's it.
All right, thank you. Is there any public comment petitions for annexation into the Missoula Rural Fire District? Is there anyone from Missoula Rural Fire District on the line who would like to speak to this? Okay, we're on our own, Commissioner Vero.
Okay, well then I move that the board approve the Missoula Rural Fire District annexation petitions as presented.
I will second that. Any further discussion? Any further discussion on this? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So our next public hearing and our final public hearing today, which I will open, is on the Martin boundary line relocation and family transfer proposal. And we will begin with a staff report from Nicholas. Are you with us?
I am with you. Thank you, commissioners. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. I have a PowerPoint presentation to go along with the staff report. Can everyone see my screen here?
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, just want to make sure. So good afternoon, everyone. Today we'll be talking about the Martin boundary line relocation and family transfer. There are two action items being requested today. The first is the consideration of a boundary line relocation, and the second is the consideration of a family transfer. We're going to go into the background of the properties first. Both tracts are located along Rock Creek Road, approximately a quarter mile south of the interstate. This is in the very southeastern portion of Missoula County. Both properties are unzoned, and they are also subject to the 2002 Regional Land Use Guide. This plan dictates these properties as open and resource, which recommends a density of 1 dwelling unit per 40 acres. The current density is at 1 dwelling unit per 12.8 acres. The proposed transfer would further exceed the recommended density at approximately 1 dwelling unit per 8.2 acres. The northern portion of tract B1 is in the 100-year floodplain and floodway, but the proposed BLR and family transfer are not affected by the floodplain. Both tracts are owned by the claimants Kathleen and Larry J. Martin. The exemption application indicates that 48 Rock Creek Road is the place of residence for Kathleen and Larry, while 56 Rock Creek Road is the place of residence for the family transfer recipient, Michael McDonald Martin. The first proposal is to relocate the common boundary lines between tract B1 and tract A. The application states that the purpose of this boundary line relocation is for better use of the land surrounding the structures. The proposed BLR would align the property boundaries along an existing road and ensure each tract will fully encompass their own sanitation systems. The second proposal, 8.61 acre tract of land off of tract A and transferred to their son, Michael, as tract A1. This tract would include the current structure that Michael lives in. The remaining 4.46 acre tract proposed as tract A2 will remain in the ownership of Kathleen and Larry. The application states that all proposed are to remain in rural residential land use. Proposed A2 is currently undeveloped land, but the application lacked a future purpose for this tract. But it's important to note that the approval of this family transfer would allow the tract to be sold or developed in the future. The application was sent out to Missoula County agencies for comment. The Missoula County Floodplain Administrator recommended that the floodplain designations be shown on the final COS. The Missoula County Water Quality District indicated that these properties are outside of the water quality district, but did note that this is an area where there could be seasonally high groundwater, so it would probably need to be monitored in the future. The Missoula City County Health Department noted that the project will require a sanitation review in accordance with Title 76.4 of the MCA. The Surveyor's Office recommended that Section 1.2A of the application be amended to reflect the boundary line relocation exemption being proposed, and there were no other comments. Now we're going to go into the parcel history. In 1985, the claimant's parents, Harold and Inez Brown, used an agricultural exemption to divide 186 acres into 9 tracts for record. This is shown in COS 3228 Rocky Pine Ranch. This survey consists of 9 tracts, 1 for agricultural use through agricultural exemption, and 8 tracts that are over 20 acres in size, thus exempt from subdivision review. Tract 1, shown on the left-hand side of the COS, is the parent tract to the proposed boundary line relocation and family transfer. In 1996, the Browns used a reservation of life estate exemption to divide tract 1 of COS 3228 into 2 tracts. Tract A is the life estate tract where the Browns continued to stay until until their deaths, and then tract B is where the Martins built their home, and that's 48 Rock Creek Road, and that was also conveyed to the Martins in 1996. In June 2008, a boundary line relocation was recorded, which attached the 1.1 acre portion A to tract B of COS 4561. This created what is now known as tract B1. You can see the highlighted portion is the attached portion. November 10th, 2008, the life estate on tract A was terminated by Kathleen Martin. And you can see the termination book and page document here. With any family transfer requests, we review for rebuttable presumptions and general evasion criteria. For subdivision review, two rebuttable presumptions and 7 general evasion criteria points were triggered in the review of the family transfer, and I will go over those points that were triggered now. Rebuttable presumption number 4, the division appears to be made for the purpose of speculation by the landowner or resale for benefit of the landowner by using the grantee as a straw person. We found this to be applicable. The grantor resides on the adjacent property, tract B1, located directly north of tract A, the property which is proposed to be divided. The recipient already resides on the home on tract A. The family transfer reduces the area of land in the son's ownership and results in the creation of a new vacant tract in the grantor's ownership south of the property. Rebuttable presumption number 8, the proposed division is on a tract that was previously created through the use of a family transfer exemption, mortgage security exemption, or occasional sale exemption. This is applicable. Tract A was previously created using a reservation of life estate exemption. General evasion criteria number 1 is the claimant in the business of construction, dividing, developing, or selling land. The application is supplemental. Information provide no indication of this. However, Larry Martin was a prior experience working as a real estate broker, general contractor, and appraiser, and Kathleen as a real estate broker. General evasion criteria number 5 has the claimant engaged in prior exempt transactions involving the original tract. This is applicable. In 1996, the claimant Kathleen was the recipient of tract B using the reservation of life estate exemption. In 2008, a boundary line relocation was recorded, creating tract B1 as shown in COS 6060. And then the life estate was terminated in November of 2008 by book 829, page 302. And after the termination of the life estate, both tracts remained as independent tracts of record. General evasion criteria number 6, is there a pattern of exempt transactions used by the claimant or the claimant's immediate family? having any other business, economic, ownership, or other relationship with the claimant that will result in the equivalent of a subdivision without local government review. Found this to be applicable. The aforementioned agricultural exemption by Harold and Inez Brown created 9 tracts of record, including the parent tract. Harold and Inez Brown then utilized the life estate exemption previously mentioned in 1996 and conveyed the tract. Sorry, and then conveyed a tract to Kathleen Martin. The claimants have not owned property that has been subject to an exemption, but they were the recipients of the life estate survey. General evasion criteria number 8 is the reason stated in the application. Sorry, general evasion criteria number 8 is the reason stated for the exemption contrary to the documentation submitted in the application, and this is applicable. The reason for the family transfer was not clearly stated in the application materials. General evasion criteria number 9 is the requested exemption unsuitable for the intended use or purpose of the division. This is applicable. The family transfer exemption is intended to allow a single gift or sale tracts outside of a platted subdivision to a member of a landowner's immediate family. This request does not appear to be suitable for the following reasons. The claimants own 2 adjacent properties which are subject to this request. Both tracts contain residencies occupied by the claimant and the proposed recipient. The claimants reside in the home on the northern tract, 48 Rock Creek Road. The intended recipient, Michael, resides in the home on the tract to the south, 56 Rock Creek Road. The family transfer, if approved, will not materially change any circumstances other than to create 1 new vacant tract slightly less than 5 acres and to reduce the tract where Michael lives from 11.76 acres to 8.61 acres. If the intent is to create a smaller tract for Michael, this can be done using a boundary line relocation rather than using a family transfer to divide and create a 3rd tract of land. General evasion criteria number 10. Could the division be accomplished by a different exemption that would be more appropriate for the intended use? Found this to be applicable. Tract A could be transferred to the son Michael without the use of a family transfer exemption. General evasion criteria number 14. Is the proposed division incompatible with the growth policy? This is applicable. As previously mentioned, the proposed exemption would further exceed the recommended density at approximately 1 dwelling unit per 8.2 acres. General evasion criteria number 19. The information provided by the claimant or the surrounding circumstances indicates that the exemption is being used to evade MSPA and those regulations. Found this to be applicable. The information and exhibits provided by the claimant show that the proposal for the family transfer does not comply with the requirements established in the regulations. And now I will go through the family transfer questions with the applicant. Larry and Kathleen, can I please ask you to state your name for record?
You bet. Larry J. Martin.
Kathleen Martin.
Thank you. Question number 1, did you buy the property with the intent of dividing it?
No.
No.
Question number 2, do you or your transferees intend to transfer the property within the next year?
No, sir.
Question number 3, have you talked to anyone at the county about going through subdivision review?
No, sir.
And then these next 2 questions are questions to be asked if the recipient is not a minor, which is the case in this family transfer. So question number 4, will the property be developed?
No.
No.
And question number 5, will the recipient
Say no, other than the fact that we may build our intent is to build a small house there to downsize onto.
On the other piece, not Mike's.
Not
piece.
Mike's piece, but the remaining piece.
track A2, correct?
I presume so, sir.
Question number 5, will the recipient of the property be residing on the property?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. In conclusion, based on the facts presented in the exemption application and affidavit, CAP staff concludes that there does not appear to be an attempt to evade subdivision review for the boundary line relocation, and staff staff does conclude that there does appear to be an attempt to evade subdivision review for the family transfer. Based on these, staff recommends approval of the proposed BLR and denial of the proposed family transfer.
Thank you, Nicholas. Mr. and Mrs. Martin, do you have a representative who you'd like to speak to this, or would you like to speak?
I'd like to do so, sir.
Okay, go right ahead.
First, thanks for giving us the opportunity to be heard. Unfortunately, and it's probably our fault for not providing enough documentation before you folks reviewed this, but there's a number of things that are wrong in the presumptions and in the report. We bought the property in 1996. We walked on the property with a for sale sign, sat down with the Browns. They had been trying to sell the property for 2 years, and because they wanted to retain a life estate on it, they couldn't sell it. I kind of liked the old man, and he knew a lot more about Montana than we did at the time. And we granted him a life estate and made it a condition of sale. We even went in and put a new septic tank in for him because he had an old cesspool on the property. So he's no relation to us. He's certainly not Kat's parents. That was the first day we met him. It was.
We didn't buy it. The other quick thing that we wanted to tell him about was the.
Let me go through this, okay? The life estate was released due to their demise. Mr. Brown died a couple of years after we bought the property, considerably younger than I am now. Mrs. Brown walked up on our step about 3 years later, and as a condition of the life estate, I had said if they vacated the property, anticipating that they might go into a rest home or something, that we'd be able to take control of it. That, in fact, did happen. She walked up, handed me the keys, thanked us, and she and her son walked away. I see here that it says the family transfer exemption is intended to allow a landowner to divide land exempt from subdivision review to convey as a gift or sale one parcel to each immediate family member. Well, I have 2 other sons. We're only trying to convey one to the one son that's been living on that property for 20 years. And the remaining tract is intended to be sold so as to finance construction on tract. That's not true. We have no intent to sell. We have intent to, when this house we're in right now is 5,000 feet, which is a little too big for a couple, particularly one who's 2 months short of 80, and my wife would have to divulge her own age. I'm not allowed to do that. But she's older than Mr. Brown was when he passed.
So anyway, we'd like to do, use the other piece back there to build a small house and get rid of
we would like to build one half the size of this one.
At least. It's a financial handicap when you're both retired.
As you can imagine, trying to maintain the 13 or 14 acres in this size house.
Yeah, we were hoping to get a smaller place to live and be close to family. That was the idea.
We allowed the Browns to continue to live in their home, paying them the full asking price. We had never met the Browns before. Yes, I was a real estate broker and a contractor 40 years ago.
Yeah,
we've been writing for a living and have produced 100
novels,
well over 100 novels since that time. Sitting here in the home we love, but which is too big for us. No information has been provided on any proposed covenants or deed restrictions. There are none intended. I mean, we'll need a curb cut or a driveway access in order to get into that back piece. If that piece is a little too small, if we need to cut Mike's piece down and increase the size of that piece to make people more comfortable with the two relative sizes, we'd be happy to do that too. Intent is originally downsized. Mike certainly has no intention of moving, nor do I, nor do we, but as we grow older, we'd like to stay in close contact with somebody who can lift a little more on occasion.
That's about it.
Just about. Okay. And this proposal of jimmying the lines around in order to give him access to some kind of weird pace. If you look at the way that property is configured, that's a kind of a strange opportunity to make the property 20 years from now difficult to sell for everybody, and it's a kind of an untenable shape and size. And by the way, there are a number of residences on this end of the creek that are only an acre in size.
Yeah.
Including two that were cut out of this property before by the Browns before we acquired it.
Yeah, I think they're 2 acres or something, but they're small.
Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Martin and Mrs. Martin. Before we get into question and answers, this is a public hearing. Is there any public comment on this proposed boundary line relocation or family transfer? Anyone out there who would like to comment? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Yeah, let's have a little bit of opportunity for some questions. Juanita, Commissioner Rivero.
Nick, can you show us an aerial of the surrounding properties and sizes?
Yes. Yep. Let me share my screen here.
Thanks.
So this is the tract that is to be divided, or that is proposed to be divided here. We are right on the border of Missoula County. There we go. So you can see that this section was essentially the first COS showed the 32228, and then you can see the surrounding property lines.
If you go in closer, you'll see a lot of small properties.
Down to
That little notch in the left would be the west.
Yep.
Southwest.
There's a small one here.
There's 2 in there.
Then these 2.
Yeah.
Down here.
And then there's more of them.
And several south of that.
On the west side of the road down further is there. That's a whole little, that's Ekstrom Stage Station is down there. So there's parcels down in there.
And okay, so then to the southwest there, what she's talking about on Rock Creek or the Ekstrom Stage Station.
Yeah. And
How many parcels?
there you go. See the 2 pieces.
That's the mercantile, the fishing mercantile there. And south of that, if you go on down, there are houses. One, I think, one probably is a half an acre.
They're pretty small, some of them. And there's another house out there somewhere. I don't see it on there, but I know it's there because it's across. Where's Dusty's house?
So again, Nicholas, the parent parcel size that we're talking about right here is how many acres?
This is currently 11.76. With the boundary line relocation, it would increase to 12.8. And then if the proposed family transfer were to occur, it would then reduce back down to 8.2. Well, sorry, that's the average. It would reduce back down to, let's get into the COS here, and we can just look at the proposal. 8.6 would be the family transfer recipient's property, and then the remainder, track A2, to remain in Larry and Kathleen's ownership would be 4.46.
We can adjust that line on up so they'll both be 6 acres if that makes you more comfortable.
I've got a couple questions. Did you want to pursue this a little bit more, Juanita?
No, sorry. Go ahead.
So Larry or Kathleen, if you were to and Nicholas, could you go back to bring up the schematic, please?
Yep. I'll just leave it on there.
Thanks.
If Kathleen or Larry, if you were to have this proposal approved today, such that your son would have that tract A1, and then you would retain ownership of tract A2 for building a smaller home on which you would reside, what would you end up doing with your current home up there at on the northern parcel?
Obviously sell it.
We have to sell it. We don't
Yeah,
have,
we
the
don't-
kids couldn't afford it to keep it, so.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess that therein lies the rub here, is that family transfers really are intended to sever off parcels for family members and not create a parcel that you would then end up selling to bankroll something else on your remaining property. And I totally get it as far as needing to do something like that to finance what you're proposing to do. But is there no way that you could envision using the boundary line relocation to create a parcel for your son?
And as I remember from 40 years ago in the real estate business, nobody's going to want a little key lot or some kind of goofy shaped piece of property somewhere in the distant future. We'll be happy to sign an agreement that we're going to not sell it for 10 years or something in that effect. But yeah, as far as selling the larger house, it's
Large.
Yeah, it's large, and it's hardly fair to ask us. We could have lied and said we're giving this other piece to my other son. We didn't do that. We came to you folks open and above board.
It's a financial situation more than anything else.
And I don't know how much family you have, but the last thing we want to do is cause family problems by having everybody on one piece or.
Yeah, that's the real crux of it, because we could just build a house out there, right? But if we do, and then when we die, it's the biggest, it's a calamity for the family, because they're all going to be fighting over who gets what. But this way, the one who's been living here 20 years gets what he has been living in for 20 years, and the rest of it, the kids can build another house, they can do whatever they want, but they don't have, it's not a family feud at that point.
House,
yeah,
but...
no, well, they can't. But you see what I'm saying? It's just a matter of, it's not a good idea to make a big problem for after you're gone.
And going back to Commissioner Strohmeyer's question, maybe I'm not quite understanding how, explain to me again why another boundary line or a boundary line relocation would not or isn't appealing.
It looks to me like they're talking about cutting. I wish I was there to draw it for you, but ask Commissioner Zanitos what they propose. They propose cutting that house out without any frontage, without it's too weird.
Yeah, you wouldn't even have.
Could you? I'm having problems seeing.
Yeah, exactly.
We had problems seeing it too.
So Nicholas, could you elaborate as far as what other, and I think specifically we're talking about a boundary line relocation here being configured in a way that could accomplish the same goal without the family transfer. So
the boundary line relocation, it was mentioned in the staff report as a means if the means of this family transfer was to reduce the size of the parcel for their son Michael. It could not create a new parcel in this scenario, but it would it could create a smaller parcel if that tax burden would have been too high for him to own that entire parcel. If they were to do a family, so like with a family transfer, there always has to be a remainder for the grantors. So if they were to divide it again for like another spouse, like for another child, like they were saying, they would still have to retain ownership of one parcel in that tract. So the boundary line relocation was meant for more of accommodating any size restrictions that might have been the purpose for the family transfer.
That was kind of a misnomer to start with, because we really want that smaller piece in order to downsize our own residence and still be son.
No, understood. And it's unfortunate that no one from your consulting firm is here to maybe field this question, but I can't help but think that, and really the options I think to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish are either a boundary line relocation that would reduce the size of the parcel that your son would be receiving and retain property for another home at a future date, or minor subdivision would certainly be an option. I guess the other option would be that that if you kept the boundary line as proposed here in the boundary line relocation, to construct a second dwelling unit on your son's parcel, but maybe that's getting into the problem where you did not want multiple family members residing on the same parcel.
Well, it just makes it's impossible to sell it. I mean, if people die, you've got to cut the money up and stuff, so you can't, it's not logical to have this big piece with all these houses. I mean, who's going to buy it? See what I mean? It's not a good business decision. I mean, you have to think in the future. We're at the age where we're thinking about our estate and the kids, what they're left. We got 3 kids to divide this money and all
I'm
that.
2 months short, or 2 or 3 months short of being 80. So it's, it's time to look a little bit in the future.
We figure we're going to live a nice long life, but we can't, for one thing, we can't live in a 5,000-foot house. The electric bill, the gas bills, it's thousands of dollars a month to live here. So that's a problem. You start retirement age, you just can't afford it. So we have to do something else. This was the most logical thing that keep everybody, happy in the family, makes our life easier because of the, we don't have this gigantic bills and stuff that we're trying to, which was great when we moved here, but 25 years ago.
And we're adjacent to 2 1-acre parcels there now. We're not asking for something that hasn't been done in the past.
Yeah, you see, those are both houses. That lot 1 and lot 2, those are both houses right there.
And I understand that, and in this case, while I never liked straying too far from the recommended density and the growth policy, I guess I'm less concerned about that than I am from straying from state law relative to the intent of family transfers, and they are not intended to create an additional lot, even though I totally get it that the way that you're going to be able to finance your new home would be through the sale of your existing lot, but this is not meant to be a way to get around subdivision review.
If you look north of the freeway, by the way, there's 35 or so 1-acre lots there.
No, I get it. I understand.
I understand your side of it too. Believe me, I get it. We weren't really trying to. We just thought this was the most convenient way, actually, and easiest way to accomplish it. We didn't realize there were rules about whatever the rules are about. You know what I'm saying? We didn't think of it as it being I thought as long as it was our piece and we were just staying.
We gave this life estate to these folks in the first instance. This is kind of a situation of no good turn goes unpunished.
Yeah, I don't know. That doesn't matter.
Juanita?
Yeah, and going through minor subdivision,
Well, how does that even work? I mean, isn't that a big
Number
deal?
one, it's expensive as heck, as I don't have to tell you folks.
Well, and I don't fault you for taking this path of least resistance to begin with, because it is what you're proposing today is without a doubt less costly than minor subdivision, but minor subdivision would be a completely transparent and that would be, as I see it, the appropriate path forward with creating
It's kind of like saying give the county a lot of money to build a house on your own property.
Well, it's also by virtue of what we're bound to do by state law also.
So if you, do you have, what's kind of if you start on a minor subdivision kind of a thing, do you spend all this money and then you still get turned down? I mean, is there a possibility of that kind of thing?
Sadly, there are no guarantees, but it would be a greater likelihood of success than I think what we're talking about here today.
I kind of feel like the whole thing all started rolling by a lot of misconceptions. The fact that the Browns were in the report were Kathleen's mother and father. That's not true. That sets a whole mindset that it was incorrect from the beginning.
No, we understand that.
No, understood. And like I say, I'm less concerned about those red flags that may not actually be true red flags today than I am with going contrary to the intent of state law, which is using a family transfer to create lots for family members and not create an extra lot, if you will, that's going to then be sold off at some future date.
So if we sold off at a future date and built the house on the south property and then came back and asked for a family transfer,
I guess I'm not quite following that.
okay, we go down and build a house on that tract A2. We sell the house above, and then we ask for a family transfer. Is that within the state law?
I think I will defer to our county attorney deputy who's on the line, John Hart. Do you have any comments on that?
So the question is, sell tract.
Not on there.
It's
Build on the southern portion of what is now A2. Build a home on the southern boot there, and then sell the larger home to the north.
northern 13 acres. Now we're not creating 3 parcels.
So basically, you would do the boundary line relocation today, build a home at the southern portion of the lot, sell the lot that you currently reside on, and then do a family transfer to your son.
You see how convoluted that is when we could just solve the problem today.
But it's just probably.
Yeah, well, Commissioner,
Well,
I can't say that the alternative scenario is an attempt to evade subdivision under our regulations or under the Subdivision and Platting Act rules. It is an alternative scenario, but it would be reviewed by our planning department just like this proposal was reviewed, and it may or may not trigger the same conclusion.
I guess, yeah, thanks, John.
For what that was worth.
And admitting that does seem convoluted, the value is that I think that scenario would not create the sort of as much as I think you guys are completely sincere in your in your desires at this point in time. Plans can sometimes change, and it's not beyond the realm of possibility. And we've seen this happen before with well-intentioned plans that they don't pan out, and that what was meant to be a lot to reside on slips into someone else's ownership. So you will have, in essence, have subdivided your property without having gone through subdivision review.
I had a kid who's a nurse at ER nurse at the community hospital. Believe me, it wouldn't be sold out of the family. He'd be out here in a heartbeat building a house.
So is this a question that can be asked of staff? I mean, do we have to make a decision today on this situation, or can there be further exploration?
Well, I guess another question before we get to that one would be for Mr. and Mrs. Martin. If it was likely that the family transfer was not going to be approved today, does that make it a moot point? Does that render moot the boundary line relocation today? Or would you still like to go through with the boundary line regardless?
It just makes a lot of sense. It's another situation of no good deed goes unpunished. We actually traded a little piece of property to our neighbors because they had a terrible access, having to drive through the snow and all that. And we cut that piece down through the middle and gave them an access. Kerry Kammer at the time was our neighbor. Now it's Dr. O'Brien. But so they could get on their property easier. It didn't make a hoot to us one way or the other. Our kid was on half of it. We were on half of it at that time. So.
But it cut out a funny.
But it cut that funny piece off, and yes, we'd like to get that back. And so it's now to cross the easement for somebody who might eventually want to buy this property that we're in.
The other one.
Okay, so just so that I'm crystal clear, we should move forward with contemplating and taking action on the boundary line relocation regardless of the second question of the family transfer.
Please.
Okay.
Well, I feel comfortable with going forward with that decision.
Nicholas, could you bring up the motion?
Yeah, I'm looking for.
And just before we do anything that we're going to have to quickly backpedal on, no desire on your parts, Kathleen and Larry, to reconsult with your consulting firm related to the boundary line relocation.
No, that's
no,
good.
sir. I'm not trying to outsmart the county, but by selling this house and building a house and the other, and then coming back with the application, to me just seems like a stretch of the governmental process. I'll put it that way. When it could all be settled in a heartbeat today.
Okay, it looks like we have the green light to move forward with the boundary line relocation. Would you like to make a?
Yes, I'm going to, well, request number 1, move that the request by Kathleen and Larry J. Martin to utilize the boundary line relocation exemption as presented in the exemption application affidavit be approved.
I'll second that. Any further discussion?
One thing I do want to ask you, one of the things you mentioned is, and it's a good thing to think about, if people don't go through with what they're saying they're going to go through, right? I mean, they just end up selling the piece. That's a big concern for you guys, which I get, because we're pretty much environmentalists, and we saved that piece across the street, I might add, that 200 acres over there that was going to be subdivided and is not subdivided because of our actions and a lot of the actions of people on Rock Creek. But you mentioned something about, could we sign a document of some sort restricting the sale of that piece for X number of years? so that we could build, in other words, say you can't sell that lot for 5 years or 3 years or whatever it is. Then you're comfortable that we're not going to be selling that B parcel. Would that help in any way?
John Hart, would you like to answer that?
Well, it's not really my decision to make. I don't, I mean, I guess from my standpoint, since you asked me, I don't know that it matters that they're going to retain it for 2, 3, 5, 10 years. The question for you today is the request in your eyes, based on the law and our regulations and the discretion that you have, is it an attempt to evade subdivision? That's the question today. And I don't know that the holding period of the remaining tract necessarily helps you answer that particular question. Maybe it does, but that's for you two to decide.
Right.
Sorry, I can't be more helpful there either.
No, that's fine. Juanita?
I was going to say, it's just that this isn't the right tool for what we're trying to, what the Martins are trying to accomplish. Because it's, I mean, like you said, Dave, but that's not the question. We have request number 1. We can handle that right now.
Yes. Any further discussion? We've got a motion and a second. Okay. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the boundary line relocation is approved as submitted. Next, with the family transfer, and here again really lies the nub of the problem, in that we are essentially creating another buildable lot and not simply severing off a parcel or multiple parcels for family members. And as I'd mentioned before, I completely understand the need for creating cash flow for your new project by way of selling off your existing lot, but this is not the sort of family transfer that we would typically and have typically approved in the past.
Since this thing started with a lot of misnomers, and I hate to belabor this, but can we go through the conclusions one at a time? Because I think I don't think any of them stand up.
Well, and again, we can certainly go through some if there are specific ones that are of concern to you, but for me, none of those individually are my rationale for the decision that I'm leaning towards here. It's are there ones in particular, I guess, rather than just going over the entire staff report?
I'm hoping to lean you the other way. The intent was to downsize. That was the first objection, that we were reside in a home on a separate tract, and our intent was to downsize. Tract A was previously created using the reservation of life estate exemption. That was at the date of sale, when we left the grounds with the life estate, and I don't think we should be punished for that. The life estate was intended to allow for her parents. That's the next one. They're not her parents. We met them when we walked into the door in the first instance. And again, the next one is parents of Kathleen Martin. They're not her parents. The next one is parents of Kathleen Martin. They're not her parents. The next is the claimants have not owned the property that has been the subject of the exemption. However, they requested something of life estate. We've owned that property since day one, 1996. The next one is the reason for the family transfer is not stated. Well, that was my mistake. I should have said in the first instance, so we can downsize. The claimants own 2 adjacent tracts, which are the subject of this request. I don't know how they could be adjacent tracts. We own the 2 tracts that are here now. We reside in the home on that, and Mike has resided in that home for 20 years. Mike's 58. He's got a lot of years left. We don't. The family transfer if approved would not materially change any circumstance other than to create one new vacant tract. It won't be vacant. We plan to downsize and build our home on that. The intent is to create a smaller tract for son Michael, which creates a 3rd vacant tract. This would force us to build a 2nd home on a single tract, eliminating our ability to sell. We had 2 properties, 2 owners in the same piece of property. I don't know if it's changed in the last 40 years since I was in the real estate business, but that's almost an untenable situation. Next to last could be, however, tract A could be transferred to our son Michael without the use of the family for exemption. Yeah, it could be creating a goofy key lot that's not good for anybody. And last but not least, there are, as you saw, a number of residences here that are an acre or slightly more than an acre in size, plus 32 on the other side of the freeway. You know, I don't see the problem.
Jenny Dixon, you had your hand up.
Hi, yeah. I don't want to preempt Nick at all on this. I simply helped him with some review of this, and just for the record, Jenny Dixon with Community and Planning Services. The research with the information as far as that relationship of parents is on me, mistake, but I do want to clarify that and I can't, it's been a few weeks now, so I can't recall how that information seemed to fit together as that relationship. But the clarification I do want to make, and I understand your frustration, Mr. and Mrs. Martin, that will affect, I think, maybe 1 or 2 of the findings relative to the family transfer. But I do not, and I chatted or messaged Nick that we can make those corrections to the report, but it would not result in a change to the recommendation as far as I can tell in my communications with Nick. Again, I don't want to preempt this is Nick's project, but I do want to just take some responsibility for that and let you know that overall it does not affect the CAP's recommendation. Also, I do want to let you know that the creation of the life estate in no way penalized you, or the good deed is not being punished. I think it was. I think it was.
Kind of feel it may not be a fact, but it sure feels that way.
No, I understand, but in fact,
we had 1 piece of property here to deal with, and easy
but
to
in fact, what happened is it created a 2nd parcel that now would have disappeared. But because you created it at that time and under those rules, you now have a 2nd tract, whereas now that would have gone away. So you actually benefited from that, and the county is not in any way interested in taking that away or creating a hardship for you that makes you feel like you were punished for doing that. That was a great thing that you did, and so I just wanted to recognize those 2 things for the commissioners as you're deliberating. That I don't think the familial relationship, the error in that would make any difference at all in the findings. It would change. There was 1 finding, I believe, that has to do with a pattern of immediate family using exemptions. But overall, there are a number of findings that indicate that this family transfer is either knowingly or unknowingly an attempt to evade subdivision, and the recommendation would be for denial of that family transfer. And Nick, please jump in if you have anything to add or correct.
We don't blame anybody. It's just kind of a cluster because it was all it was all based on incorrect information in the first instance, or much of it was.
Right. I
So,
understand.
so Jenny, thanks. And I was going to ask if we could correct the record to reflect those changes.
Yes, I can definitely.
So in the spirit of following up just a little bit more with the no good deed goes unpunished theme. So if it were not for the good deed, we would not be able to relocate a boundary line today. Is that, am I missing something there? Is that correct, Jenny, or?
That's
Commissioner?
correct.
That's correct.
Okay. So from that standpoint, we are certainly not penalizing you for having taken some action in the past that actually allowed us to take the action that we just did. Without that boundary line, we would be contemplating today simply a straight up family transfer of some sort, which we would still be in the exact same place we are right now.
Following through, if we would go down and build the other house, we accomplish the same thing. We come back to you and apply again. It seems that there are times when there's logic over law.
I do not deny that it is a quirky process that we are saddled with here. But again, it kind of is what it is. And Commissioner Vero, did you have something you wanted to?
I didn't know if John Hart wanted to respond at all, or is
John, were you trying to get a word in?
No, I just thought I'd answer your question, Dave, that yes, the only reason there's an opportunity for boundary line relocation is because of the tract of record that was created by the life estate. And I'd add a little bit more onto that, just to sort of dogpile on this no good deed, or your good deed has not gone unpunished. Our subdivision regulations, as of today, if somebody wants to create a tract to let somebody live on during their life, in other words, a life estate tract, if that was created today, at the time that the life estate was extinguished, or at the time of the person's death who had the life estate, the boundaries of those tracts would actually be extinguished. So in this situation, the tract of record that was created by the life estate in 1996 would have ceased to exist as of 2008. Our regulations weren't written that way then, but they are now. So that maybe doesn't make sense to folks, but for the Martins' benefit, your good deed is in many ways to your benefit today.
Well, we appreciate all your time, folks, and I guess we'll see you again when we ask again.
Scary thought.
Well, hang minutes here. So,
yeah, is this, I mean, are you withdrawing this request then, or what's, sorry, go ahead.
I think the options before us are, and Mr. and Mrs. Martin, I think you can probably see the direction this is going. So the options would be either we can follow through and take formal action today, which might result in the denial of the family transfer, or you could withdraw your request and think about what your next steps would be.
Well, we should probably slink away into the dark then.
Yeah, withdraw our request. We'll come back for a better day. How's that? But we appreciate all your work on it. I mean, obviously you spent time.
Believe me, we are not trying to be difficult here, as difficult as that might be to swallow.
We all got to follow the law.
That's right.
For Nicholas or anyone with CAP staff or John Hart, what would be the formal process that they would follow if they wanted to withdraw their application? Is verbally doing so right now? They need to do something in writing.
No, I think that they can do it verbally right now on the record if that's what they decide they want to do. I think that's an appropriate way to go forward.
Please withdraw our application. Other than the lot line adjustment, which already been
Yes.
approved.
Yep. We got that done.
Okay, and it looks like Jenny also put in the chat that she agrees it's adequate. Withdraw.
And we will make corrections to the staff report and resend that to you, Mr. and Mrs. Martin. We'll make sure that whatever is inaccurate in there, we want to be correct. So thank you for pointing that out.
Yep, thank you. I will update that information and get that out as soon as possible.
Thanks, everybody. Oh, you tall, cold one.
Yeah, thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Just take time, believe me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you too.
Is there any other business to come before the commission other than I would like to recognize that I actually do know the Pledge of Allegiance, but somehow stumbled over that earlier in our technological age of only hearing myself talk. So.
Oh, yeah, but I'm muted. So yeah, thanks everyone for this tortured sort of meeting, but I think we got to a conclusion that we can feel good about. As frustrating as it is for everyone.
And these are always difficult. You know, as everyone recognized, there were no bad intentions, but you know, our regulations are what they are. And they're no different than any of the other urban counties around the state. I mean, we gleaned many of our evasion criteria from Flathead County, Lewis and Clark County, Yellowstone County, Gallatin County. So this is the same kind of review that applicants would find as they go if they were in another county. And it is important for I watch the CAP staff wrestle with these, and you know that they don't go out of their way to figure out ways to come up with a staff recommendation of evasion. It's just they try to be as objective as they possibly can and apply these rules to everybody in a similar fashion. And you know, sometimes there's a thumbs up and sometimes there's a thumbs down. So I think that's important to have on the record for our planning department.
Thank you for saying that. And I wish their develop or their who was the company? Their consultants.
Montana and Northwest Planning.
Yeah, I wish that they had been there.
I do apologize for the inaccurate staff report material items there too. I will definitely update that and get that corrected so it reflects what the actual nature of the claim.
Thank you.
That's on me. It's on me.
Well, thank you for clarifying, everyone.
Yeah, certainly there's something you can pass the buck to John Hart for, is there not?
Just good looks and long hair.
Good looks and long hair.
Okay.
Nobody listens to the hippie lawyer anyway, so.
Well, seeing no other business, thanks everyone for your participation today, and we will be adjourned.
Thank you.